Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Ty Brady, who's the owner of Brady Insurance Marketing. Ty, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Hey, you're welcome. Give us a little bit of your background and what your entrepreneurial journey has been like to this point in your career.
Well, I graduated with a bachelor's degree in applied science, which got me into a career in the construction industry, where over about a 10-year span, I built, 2,000 or 3,000 homes. I didn't build them personally, but managed the building of them. And I was doing about $33 million in revenue a year for a light commercial residential contractor. And America, we live for the American dream, and everyone wants to build a home. So that's what I did. Is I built people's dream homes and did some light commercial. And then 2008 happened, where the market tanked, and I was forced out of my job. And in November, out of my job, and then cursed Christmas. I had 3 kids at the time, and that's what happened. Is in construction. And then that first year after I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do next, I worked 17 different jobs. I mean, I was putting insulation in houses, I was painting, I was trimming, anything I could do to make a living, because I could not get a job in that industry I was in. Nobody was hiring. And a friend of mine reached out to me and said, "Hey, Ty, I have a position available. We're looking for a guy that can run the shop and a production foreman. We picked up a little bit in work after we laid people off." So I went and interviewed for that position, and it wasn't a good fit. But what they did do is they offered me a sales position, straight commission. Didn't have anything to lose, right? They just said, "Hey," and it was for a fencing company, and they said, "Hey, here you go. We'll give you a shot." So I started selling fencing products in residential and commercial. And one day I was out bidding a fence, and a guy pitched me on the idea of getting into the senior market, helping people aging into Medicare or already on Medicare find health insurance. Explained to me a little bit about what that demographic looked like, what the need was. And I did some research after that and realized, hey, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot, because I didn't want anyone else. A decision that I had made when I was laid off and without a paycheck is I was never going to let somebody control my destiny again.
Yeah.
It crushed me. I mean, when I lost my job and lost everything, I mean, I had 15 houses. I lost all but 2 of them. I was kicked out of my primary residence or foreclosed on, and I was left with 2 of my properties and had to move in with my mom and dad for 4 years as I figured out what I was going to do. But what it ended up doing is it led me on my journey for insurance, and I knew that insurance was recession proof next to banking. I didn't want to go back to school and be a banker, because then it's a 9-to-5 job, and so I said, I'm going to do insurance. But what I did is I didn't know what line of insurance. And that first year I sold supplemental insurance, life insurance, small group, anything that I could do independently. And it led me to where I'm at today with an organization. My upline or NMA is called Kellogg Insurance Marketing. And I met a great mentor named Ron Kellogg that started me on my journey in the senior market in 2009. Here it is, 12 years later, and I'll explain more about what I've been able to do. But that was the short version on where I'm at today and how I got in the industry.
Yeah, I feel your pain, because back I spent about 10, 12 years in the mortgage banking industry. And when 2008 happened, it wasn't just 2008, it was 2008, 2009, 10, 11, 12. I mean, it just lingered, but it was just an immediate just gone. It was just the whole industry just for what I was doing. And so, yeah, you felt the same pain. And, now I'm sure that when you were coming out of the construction industry and now working with seniors, I'll bet you have a heightened sensitivity to how that demographic can many times get taken advantage of. So you've got to have that integrity, and you've got to be sensitive to that, and know that, hey, when you're working with someone in that niche, they're cautious, and you've got to be, obviously we should be ethical and careful about anybody we work with, but especially in that it's almost like a protected group. Let's be careful with our seniors. So what did you discover when you started working in that realm?
It's funny you say that. I knocked on a door for an appointment I had in a local town. It was about an hour away from my house. I knocked on the door, and the guy looked me right in the eyes, and he said, "You don't look old enough to be helping me." This was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And for a minute, it took me off guard, but at the same time, I'm like, okay. And all I said is, I said, give me 15 minutes. Let me do my presentation, and then you can let me know if I have value. And he literally took his stopwatch or his watch off his wrist, put it on the table, and he said, go.
Wow.
I mean, there was no introduction, no warm-up. I started doing my presentation about Medicare, what Medicare is, what it does, what it doesn't do, that he had options to go with either a Medicare Advantage or a Medicare supplement, and then what the gaps were in Medicare. And after 15 minutes, I stopped and I said, can I continue? And he says, absolutely. What I did not know is he was the mayor of that town, and he referred me to all of the city council members and all of his friends. That one day, I think I ended up, not over time, I ended up getting 20 or 30 policies, and I have a lot of good friends because of that gentleman. Yeah. And it took me off guard when I knocked on that door. And the other thing too is the industry that I'm in, it's highly regulated. It keeps out a lot of the riffraff because you have to certify every year. There's a lot of legislation that is passed about do's and don'ts. So you have to have a high level of integrity when you're dealing with people of this demographic, for sure.
Yeah, that's a big point, and I think that you were prepared for that, but kind of caught off guard because it's like, okay, 15 minutes go, but you can't. Here's something that probably, if we could bring on a psychologist onto the line and go, hey, tell us a little bit more about this, but I would say you can't fake that kind of integrity. I mean, people can smell, dogs can smell fear. People can smell if you're just kind of putting on an act. And when you were doing that presentation, that person could tell. It doesn't matter how old you are or not. They can tell that you are trustworthy, and you're not able to fake that. So I think that's such a huge, neat story that you brought up.
It was powerful. He slapped the table and he said, I've been on Medicare. I think he was 72 at the time. He's like, for a number of years. And he says, I finally get it. Wow. No one had taken the time to educate. And I preach all the time to my agents and my people I work with, is I said, our job is to present. That's all. We educate. And we do not care what people choose. That's why I'm a broker. That's why I choose to be a broker, is I don't want to try and force somebody in a product because that's the only product I have to sell. And at the end of the day, I don't care what they choose. And genuinely, I'm like, it all pays the same. Do you want X or do you want Y? Doesn't matter to me.
Yep. Well, I know that ties into what you call your 3 pillars and your Fantastic 4. Tell us a little bit about how those tie in together.
So they're first of all, my pillars are value, service, impact. So you'd never know the impact you make in life or in somebody's, if it's just one person, that one person's life could change generations if you're able to make an impact, especially if you're trying to, like for me, helping somebody be financially free. If they're able to be financially free, they're able to give back to their family and their community. But how do you do that? You do that through service. If you serve, the sales will be there. I mean, sales is the path, or service is the pathway to service. Julie, let me repeat that. Service is the pathway to sales. And always having that service mindset. I may not get the sale today. Let's say somebody calls me up that is not a client of mine and has a problem. But if I take the time to help them, figured out that problem and solved that problem, they're going to be like, hey, Ty, help me. Next time they know of somebody that needs help, they're going to say, call Ty. He took the time to help me. He may not be my agent, but he took the time. And then the last one is value, that you're valuable. Everybody is valuable. Everybody is unique. Everybody has a story to tell. My story is different than your story. And as the listeners out there, they can make such they can do important things with the stories they have. I love interviewing agents and people that have a story to tell because it's relatable, and stories actually sell. It makes someone listen and say, hey, if he did it, I can do it.
And I think that people would be really surprised and shocked that when they tell elements of their story, their background, something's going to, pop up in someone's mind like, oh, it's one of the most random things you might say that you never thought would land or make an impact. But someone's like, oh, you are, used to be a high school wrestler or used to be and I think that's really interesting that you just, I've heard it said so many times, real is rare. And when you are too rehearsed, I've never gotten into cold calls, but I've heard that when you go through training, it's like, here's the script and how are you doing today? Forget that. Just talk. Just talk like a human and treat so you
conversation.
Right. If that mayor, the example that you gave there, if you had tried to gone through some memorized script, he would have kicked you out in 4 minutes.
Yes. He knew I was genuine.
Yep.
He knew I was there to help.
Yeah.
But he was definitely cautious at the same time.
100%. Perfect. Okay, so then tell us about your Fantastic Four. That sounds like a movie.
It's my 4 F's. It's my family, my faith, my financial freedom, and my free time. And that's what it's all about. Saturdays for me, it's family day. You'll find me on the lacrosse field, the football field, at a cheer competition, at a dance competition, on the lake. Saturdays is my family day because that's what it's all about, is spending that quality time with my kids. That's the memories that they will have. It's the memories they'll be able to tell their kids. So that's number 1. Number 2 is my faith, and that's Sundays. I go to church I go for me, obviously, but it's also to help people around me. It's that service.
Yeah.
It's providing a service, and the church is a church of healing. Whether people agree with me or not, it's for me, I go there to help. And that's the bottom line. I don't care about anybody's garbage they bring into church. I don't care about their background. I have no judgment. If they're there, they just want to improve themselves and have some kind of spiritual guidance. I believe the universe has a lot to give. And as much as you give, you'll get back in return. And I also believe that God is a God of abundance. And it's there if we want it. We just have to be willing to ask and do the work. Then with those 2 things right there, you get financial freedom. And that financial freedom is, like I said earlier, is I never wanted anybody to control my destiny again. And how that happened is that my daughter, she's almost 20 now, she came to me, and this is a defining moment as well, where she said, Dad, when can we move back into our old house? That was like a dagger to my soul, and somebody twisted it. And, my other kids, they're a little bit younger. They don't remember those days, but it was hard. It crushed me to my core. And then the last one is with the financial freedom, is I have the free time to help, to give back. My wife's we're doing a big clothing and drive to raise money to sponsor kids to play football. And my third-car garage is completely full of clothes, shoes, and soft goods. We're trying to beat the record of all time. I think you get 50 cents per pound that we turn in. And the last person, the record they had was 24,000 pounds. We're trying to beat that. And I'm going to see, I may have to rent a truck to get this stuff down to the local place. But at the end of the day, that's the things that we do to make that impact in the community and for people all around.
Neat. And having that approach then allows you to give back to the clients you work with, but also you help agents build their business, and you help them build residual income and teaching them some of the lessons you've learned. So talk a little bit about how you serve your agents.
I've never been one to be hooked on a title. Some people believe that a title values their success in life. You could call me a street agent. I don't care. At the end of the day, what I believe is that if you invest in people, everything else trickles down from there. I value the relationships that I have with the agents I bring on board. I'm not for everybody, and I tell agents that all the time, but I invest in the agents themselves. I know the impact they can make. I had a manager, and my mentor told me all the time, he says, Ty, you're an all-star. You're a gem. You're a rarity. And I'm like, no, I'm just doing my thing. And now that I've been able to reciprocate and give back, because he invested a lot of time and money into me, I can see what he was referring to. And I used to always say, reciprocate what you're reciprocating, and make sure that you stay at that same level or higher. And then he said the other thing is don't start a relationship over money, because the next time somebody offers them money, they'll be gone. And There's oftentimes I talk to agents, they're like, well, how much are you going to pay me, or this or that? And I'm like, you know what? It's not about that. I know that if I help you and serve you and teach you the things that I know, that the money will be there. I've seen it time and time again. And I know that I am the catalyst with my agents and my agency. And I helped a lot of people make a lot of money. I mean, I had an agent recently say to me, this agent was in corporate sales for many, many, many years. And the agent said, my retirement looked pretty grim. And now this particular agent has paid off their home. They can work whether they want to work or not work. And they're living a lifestyle that most people never will, but they did the work. They listened to the systems and strategies that I have and just went to work. But I was there in the background being their biggest cheerleader. I was in the background encouraging them, saying, hey, how did it go this week? I was always there to lift them up and pull them through until they finally get it. And now that person's doing what I'm doing and trying to reciprocate that and give back and help other people do the same thing.
Love it. That's, that when like you said about if you start off pushing or focusing on money, that's the same thing as you hear about in sales. Like, don't focus on price, focus on value. Because if you focus on price, someone else out there is going to beat you on price, go lower, lower, lower. Well, if you focus on here's all the money you can make, well, at some point, someone's going to say, oh, we can help you do more or different or better. But why don't we focus on how you can serve your community better, how you can have a more fulfilled life, how you can provide more value to the people you work with and serve. And I'll show you how to make the income and all that. That'll come. But that's putting the cart before the horse many times, is when you put that wrong focus on only and amplifying the money. I really love that approach.
Yeah, it's been very rewarding and very fulfilling.
Well, Ty, if someone is interested in learning a little bit more about what Brady Insurance Marketing can do for them, what's the best way that they can reach out and connect with you?
I think what you've put on, you've got a link to my website. They can go in there and say, join the team. There's a few videos in more detail about what we do and what we have to offer. And then they can also follow me on Instagram. I do have a weekly podcast show called The Ty Brady Way. I have successful tips of life strategies. I did one recently on addiction. And if people can turn their addiction, the same amount of energy they put into an addiction, if it's drugs or alcohol as an example, what they could do at that same time working towards being an entrepreneur. And that's The Ty Brady Way. It can be found on Spotify, on Podbean, and then also connect with me on ty.r.brady on Instagram, or The Ty Brady Way also on Instagram, most social media platforms. And send me a direct message if you'd like. Just say I'd like to chat, or go on and there's an intake form on the website. Any of those are great methods to get a hold of me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Ty. It was a real pleasure learning about you, your story, and how you're serving your community and the people you come in contact with. And so thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure. And Mike, you've been a great host, and look forward to a few more of these down the road.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.